Welcome to Decimal Point Analytics Unplugged, a podcast aimed at delivering valuable insights into the ever changing realms of technology and business. Our goal is to provide our listeners with the latest trends and expertise in various fields, including data analytics, AI, finance, and ESG. In today's episode, we are excited to have Ajay Jindal, the lead solution architect for DPA's ESG practice, and Bishwadeep Chakraborty, Bish for short, our VP of Sales for Canada. Ajay holds over 2 decades of experience in research and analytics. He brings his extensive cross sectorial exposure to DPA's ESG practice. He is also a certified ESG professional from the CFA Institute. On the other hand, Bish, a seasoned consultant in the field of capital markets, is based in Toronto and is well versed in providing trusted advisory services. In today's discussion, Ajay and Bish will delve into the key highlights from DPA's recent published paper, Canada ESG Review 2023. This paper examines the latest status and activities among key stakeholders, including corporates, asset managers, regulators, and industry forums. Welcome, Ajay and Bish. Thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you, Supriya, and hello to you, Bish. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about the current ESG landscape in Canada.
Thanks, Ajay. Thanks, Supriya, for having me. As a Canadian, ESG is very close to my heart, and I'm really excited to dive into the ESG situation in Canada.
Fantastic. Let's jump right into it. Bish, could you share with us the key highlights from the recent paper published by DPA's ESG team, Canada ESG Review 2023? Specifically, how are Canadian companies progressing in terms of their climate goals?
Right. So Ajay and the ESG team in DPA, we did a very extensive research on the Canadian ESG market, and we saw that the corporate sector in Canada is not really keeping up with the net zero commitments. So Ajay, would you like to present some data on that?
Yeah, Bish. One metric we have used to assess net zero efforts by Canadian companies is to see how many companies are working with Science Based Targets Initiative or SBTI. We found that only 79 Canadian companies are working at this point with SBTI for target validation. This is a low number compared to the size of Canada's corporate sector and economy. We also did country-wise ranking of companies working with SBTI. Canada comes a lowly 18th here, well below its global GDP rank. Several smaller economies like Finland, Belgium, France, Spain, and Denmark are well ahead of Canada in terms of number of companies working with SBTI for their net zero targets. We also checked with net zero. We also checked the net zero alignment status of companies in TSX 60. This is a popular index of the Toronto Stock Exchange. It is made up of 60 large companies in Canada. Only 6 companies have a net zero target aligned to 1.5 degree and validated by SBTI. Another 2 are aligned to less than 2 degrees trajectory.
That's an interesting finding, Ajay. Bish, why do you think Canadian companies are struggling to make progress on their climate targets, especially considering Canada's status as a large and well-developed economy?
No, I think that's a great question, Supriya. My understanding is that this has to do with regulation in Canada. And it's again because the disclosure regime has been more advisories or guidances rather than regulations. So say, for instance, the guidance by the CSA, which is the Canadian Securities Administrator, it does exist, but just again in the nature of an advisory rather than a mandate. So, for example, there is a SN 51338 reporting of climate change related risk issued in August 19, right? And I quote here, as part of a materiality assessment, issuers should not only consider the existence of material climate change related risks, but also, where practicable, quantify and disclose the potential financial and other impact of such risks, including their magnitude and timing. So, if we look at the overall wordings of this advisory, this is an incredible good guidance if implemented sincerely by all the Canadian corporates. There is another association which is known as the Canadian Sustainability Standards Board, which was set up in last year in June 2022, and is a organization which is expected to play a pivotal role in driving ESG reporting in the Canadian ecosystem. CSSB is expected to work very, very closely with the ISSB, which is the International Sustainability Standards Board, which was again established a year ago in November 2021 at the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, to deliver a global baseline of sustainability disclosures that meet capital market needs. Is Ajay, Canada going towards the right directions there?
Yes. So, these steps certainly should help in getting some momentum on ESG focus or climate focus amongst Canadian companies. And to be sure, they need to improve. I mean, if you look at some more data, uh, Canada is among the biggest emitters globally. On a per capita basis, Canada is the highest emitter amongst all major economies. And so this tells us that there's a dire need to get some progress going, because Canada, like other major nations, also needs to meet the Paris goal of reaching net zero by 2050. So I think one should expect rapid progress amongst Canadian companies, given that some good regulatory momentum seems to be coming behind this goal.
Thank you for shedding light on the challenges and opportunities in the corporate sector. Shifting gears, Ajay, what were your observations regarding the social parameters covered in the Canada ESG Review 2023?
Yeah, in terms of social focus, Canadian corporate sector seems to be doing well. One reason could be that DEI disclosures are mandatory. The 30% Club Canada reports that around a third of directors of TSX composite companies are women. It also reports healthy women representation in top management, and it's close to 25%. So these are very good numbers. On the other hand, like it's never USA, representation of indigenous minorities lacks their proportion in the overall population.
Thank you for highlighting those social parameters, Ajay. Now, Bish, let's talk about the Canadian managed asset space. How are asset managers addressing ESG?
Right. So when we did this extensive research on the Canadian ESG market, Ajay and team also realized that this is an area where Canada is doing a lot of progress, right? And it shows a lot of promise there as well. So the Canadian funds specifically, they have been very, very early adopters of the responsible investment movement. And that is why around 228 Canadian funds are right now signatories to the UNPRI, which is the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investment, which basically says that Canada is above a large number of developed nations as well. So it is right now the GDP is standing at around 9, but Canada is ranking 5th globally in terms of the responsible investment movement. So we see a lot of promise there, and that there is very clear direction towards moving towards ESG.
That's a remarkable achievement for Canada's managed sector. That's a remarkable achievement for Canada's managed asset sector. That was a fantastic discussion filled with valuable insights. Thanks, Bish and Ajay, for your expertise in shedding light on the Canadian ESG landscape. Your perspectives have provided our listeners with a deeper understanding of the importance of sustainable investing and the exciting developments in Canada. For our listeners, do read our Canada ESG Review white paper for a detailed understanding on the Canadian asset management's ESG landscape. We'll put the link in the bio. As we come to the end of the episode, I want to express our gratitude to all our listeners for your attentive listening and look forward to connecting with you on the upcoming episodes of Decimal Point Analytics Unplugged. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya. Thank you, Bish.
Thank you, Sophia. Thanks, Ajay.
Bye-bye.